let's get down to business. We got everybody from Periscope here, and we've got the people live on YouTube trying something new out. This time around, going to try to broadcast in two places simultaneously. What up, everybody? You guys know me as BC the Brain Supreme here at Alloy 7 tonight. We're going to be talking about the 4 types of people guaranteed to fail. Let me make sure I got the people on Periscope where they can actually see what we're talking about here. Periscope folks, just know that I will be covering the board while I'm standing here, but I'll be moving so that you can see it. YouTube folks, you guys should be good to go. Now, we started tonight's stream off with a question, and what I wanted you guys to answer for me was, currently, what is the most frustrating thing that you're experiencing as a YouTube creator? Okay, so I kind of wanted to start tonight's show off with an icebreaker before we dive headlong into these 4 types of people. And then I give you an explanation for it, specifically what I mean. Technically, there's no exact type of person who empirically is going to be guaranteed to fail. And I'll explain why I chose the words that I chose here as kind of a wake-up call to everybody that's out there watching this. But let's start off with the question. I'd already seen some comments from when I had asked it earlier in the stream. Let's go ahead and get to that. Brain Juice says, let's play a video game like Odin's Sphere on the original PS2 on hard difficulty. That's going to get any YouTube creator frustrated. He says, in fact, I challenge YouTube Let's Players here in this stream to do a Let's Play of Odin's Sphere on hard. No, thank you, sir. I will not be doing that. I played the new one. I actually got to play the new one, the Japanese version of the new one, a couple weeks ago. It was actually really cool. I had never played the original, and I thought it was actually pretty dope. You guys, I have to forgive me, too. I've been drinking a lot of tea today as I've lost a bit of my voice from allergies and sinus issues, but we'll get through it. Guardian Soulblade says his frustration is when I find out I have to re-record something because audio is messed up. Yep, that's just part of the game, man. Absolutely. And I could have sworn. Okay, Galactic Gaming says the hardest thing for me is probably the 2 videos a day. I hate commitment. So we'll have something to add to that at some point during the stream here. I can actually tell you right off the bat. If 2 videos a day is killing you, you may want to make your schedule a little bit less. You got to remember, you have to pick a schedule that you can ultimately keep for a very long period of time. So if you're just being lazy and you don't like doing the work, that's one thing. But if it's actually putting a strain on your life to be able to get 2 videos out, you may want to cut back. It's actually one of the first things YouTube teaches certified folks like me in the YouTube certified program. It's one of the first things they teach on is keeping the creator happy. Galactic Gaming says, hi, what's up? What's up, Baconator? What's up, Kai? I know Kai says that they're going to have to leave tonight and not stay. Jamie Soroy is back. Welcome. Who else do we have here? Dark Typers. How do you know what to put on tags? It depends on the video. But sometimes it's not what you know. Sometimes it's experimentation. And then sticking with what works when something does work. Let's see. Jamie got a new sub. Excellent. Cool. Yeah, Brain Juice says you don't want to upload too many videos at once because people will skip to the latest one. There's some truth in that. I think a lot of times what we have a tendency to do just as human beings is assume that everybody's like us. It's just not the case. Like, there's people who will binge watch what you do. There are people who will skip to the last one that you did. Trying to please everyone, like Brain Juice, I imagine, may not be the type of person that skips to the most recent one, but he may know of people that do, and thus is kind of applying that policy across the board. There are going to be people that do that, but if your schedule permits you to do 2 videos a day and that's what your audience likes, remember, it's about experimentation and nuance. It's not about black and white answers or right or wrong. So James Van Zant says, getting and keeping motivated. Okay, good. We will definitely talk about motivation tonight on this particular stream when we get into these 4 people who are guaranteed to fail. And it's going to be interesting. Like, I have a different take on what it means to be motivated. And when people tell me that they're not motivated, and it may be semantics, it may be me playing with the words, I admit that. But when people tell me that they're not motivated, what I actually point to is that their issue is not really with motivation. but with a sense of purpose, and desire is actually the bigger issue, more so than motivation. We'll talk about that a little bit too. So Brain Juice says, I kind of am the person that skips. So see, that's what I'm talking about. Psychologically, we have the tendency to assume that everybody is like we are. And it's nothing wrong with that. It's just how we're wired. When the truth of the matter is we're all very nuanced. And you'll see some of these different types of, all of these character prototypes that I'm going to put on the board, all of us embody each of them to a degree. And what tonight's video is going to be about is helping you avoid the extremes that will keep you from succeeding. A and B Game Team is here. What's up, Dark Typers? I saw one video that said add other content creators as tags that's doing your content. Well, so one of the reasons why you want to add like your channel to your tags is so that in suggested search, when somebody's watching one of your videos, a lot of the other videos that will be suggested will also be your videos. Let's see. Brain says, one of the guys I'm sub to uploaded 3 videos of, is that Need for Speed Most Wanted, and I wanted the latest one only. Well, and don't feel bad. I mean, that's, the nature of YouTube is going to be, content is going to get more voluminous. Is that the right way to say that word? We're going to have more and more content, and people are only going to be able to consume so much. So people will start to cherry pick just like they do, you know, TV on demand was really the precursor to, you know, I don't want to say it was here exactly before YouTube because I don't know which one came first, the chicken or the egg here. But bottom line is people are going to pick and choose what they want to watch and they're going to bounce around. Let's see. Unless they are what your vid is about, you should not do that. Yeah, in terms of putting other people in your videos, that's more going to help their stuff show up versus, you know, helping you out. All right, what else do we have? What are the things that are frustrating everybody as a video creator out there in YouTube space? Let's hear it. Let's hear about it. Let's see what the Periscope folks... Oh, we're flipping the camera the wrong way. What are we doing? Cool. See, Jamie says they got a new game to record. Excellent. Okay. If that's what everybody has, and you guys can continue to type as we go through tonight's discussion. Let's go ahead and go to the board. Let me do a couple of, let me preface what we're actually here to talk about tonight. This idea that there's 4 types of people who are guaranteed to fail. It's not an exact statement of fact. So basically what I'm going to be putting on the board tonight, each one of us embodies to a degree each of these 4. And honestly, there's more than 4. I mean, there's a couple other ones I thought to add after the fact, but I'd like to keep tonight's video as succinct as possible and not make it take, 7 hours for us to get through all the content. But basically, and what we're talking about here is extremes, because each one of us is going to embody, like I said, one of these 4 to a certain degree, to the point where I think you'll spend the entirety of your life trying to eradicate each one of these symptoms, if you will, or behavior models. But what we want to avoid and what we want to steer everybody away from is the extremes, because looking at the 4 that I picked for tonight's video, and like I said, there's probably 100 that we could pick. These are just the 4 that I run into probably the most often with the people that I help, and even in myself. So what we want to do is help you find out where you're weakest. You're probably not going to embody all of the 4, but we do want to find out where you are having the most struggle so that we can identify, we're going to talk about behaviors that expound upon these folks up here as well. Like, some of you may have questions about the nuances between 2 of the ones that I picked, and we'll talk about specific behaviors that help you identify whether or not it's you and if you have a weakness for it. And then we'll talk about some strategies to help you actually eradicate this type of behavior from your life. Okay, so let's talk about the first one here. We got Jolly Mages in the place. Hello, sir. Good. Okay, so with that in mind, actually, let me do one thing before we get started here to make sure the stream is going beautifully. Good, okay. Sweet. All right, so let's talk about the first person up here. And we touched on this in an earlier video, by the way. We touched on 3 of the 4. But I got a lot of comments and a lot of questions about them. I think people were a little bit worried that I was talking about them. And the fact of the matter is I was talking about all of us, myself included, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper because I kind of just left it there. If you're like this, you're going to fail, and didn't really expound on what the extremes look like, and I didn't tell you ways to get out of it, okay? So the first one, if you remember from the other night, is our procrastinators. And the best analogy or best story I can tell you to help illustrate procrastinators, I'm going to use two examples. So those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I physically train people in the gym. Similar to the training, the coaching that I do here, I also coach people in terms of physical fitness. And one of the things I find in a lot of the people who I don't necessarily, because I don't coach everybody that reaches out to me, but I do advise people. Like I get people that are close to me, they understand my work ethic, they know how I eat, they know how I work out, they know my philosophy, that you can't outwork a bad diet, and all these different types of things that they hear me talk about all the time. And they'll reach out to me for help. Like, hey, can you help me put a meal plan together? At which point I usually say, well, you want to consult your doctor, you want to talk to a nutritionist, because every person genetically is a little bit different, and there's no one meal. Like my meal plan probably wouldn't work for you, especially if you don't work out the way that I do. And you're not necessarily built like me. You're not genetically predisposed to storing fat the way I do, metabolizing food the way that I do, being able to digest certain types of food better than me. So, but one of the things that rings true in almost every person, and there's rare cases, like you guys hear me say a lot of times on the channel, my focus is on ninjas. I'm going to give you an example of what a ninja doesn't look like tonight. One of the biggest procrastinators I run into with physical training is this person that tells me, hey, can you please put a workout plan together for me? Or can I please work out with you? Yes, I let anybody that wants to work out with me work out with me. And then I tailor the workouts to their ability level and to their goals. And the first thing that the non-ninjas do every single time is they say, well, I'm going to get started on January 1st. And it's, at that point in time, it's like right before Thanksgiving. So what you're telling me is you want to behave like a out of shape person for another couple months before you decide to get healthy. And it never, ever fails. That person never shows up to the gym with me in January. And if they do, it's for like a week, and then it's hard, and they're tired, and it never fails. It's, well, I want to work, but I'm going to start on Monday. No. You're going to start today if you work with me. If you come to me and say, I want to be trained, you are going to start today. And it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean I'm going to have you out there running 5 miles and doing 1,000 push-ups on day one. It just means the first thing we're going to address is your mindset. This idea that you lack motivation or that you're lazy, it's not the truth. The first thing I have to do in you, going back to the comment from earlier about lacking motivation, the first thing that I have to do for you is cultivate desire. Okay, and if you read my ebook, I work on that very hard. There's actually a chapter in the ebook dedicated to cultivating a desire in you to work, okay, to get something done that's in accordance with the way you want to see the world as a YouTuber or whatever the case may be. So that is one of the key people I run into who are procrastinators is I want you to help me get in shape, but I don't want to start for another month. Why? What is going on right now today that you can't get started other than the fact that you don't want to be in shape enough to come work with me today to give up some of your bad habits? It starts today. And so you've got to kill that. If you don't address that, I'm going to wait until January 1st to start my YouTube channel, or I'm going to wait till January 1st to start getting in shape, you're never, ever, 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 ever going to do it. And even if you start, hear me, you're going to quit. Because you haven't developed the desire, which leads to the mental toughness. Because a lot of people think their problem is motivation and toughness. It's not. Toughness and motivation are developed when your desire is strong enough. Like one of the examples I use on my friends that tell me, I want to work out, I'm just not motivated. Or I have people that I've trained, they're like, you got to help us stay motivated. I don't have to help you stay motivated. I can't motivate you. It's not humanly possible. I mean, other than you can look at me and maybe it instills some level of, I wish I had what he had. I wish I could bench 400 and some odd pounds, or I wish I could squat, 700 pounds or whatever the case may be. That may motivate you, but there's nothing I'm going to physically do that's going to get the motivation out of you. The motivation has to come from you. And the example I use on people is you don't have a motivation problem, you have a desire problem. Because if tonight, when we're leaving this restaurant, if somebody releases, like the zoo is driving by with a truck full of bears, and the bears get out, you're going to run the fastest mile time you've ever run in your life. If you live, which you probably won't, but you're still going to run as fast as humanly possible to get away from those bears so that you don't die. Was motivation a problem that night? No, you had all the motivation in the world because you had a bear, a hungry zoo bear that wanted to eat you, chasing you. And so that's the problem. Most people, when they procrastinate, either their life is too good to motivate them to get out of something that sucks, like their life doesn't have enough challenges to where they're motivated internally to want to get out of it. And if you've ever been broke, then you know what I'm talking about. You get real motivated when you have to feed children and you have no money. Okay? Motivation's not your problem. Your problem is desire, because your desire to live will make you run from that bear. But your desire to live long won't motivate you to come to the gym with me before January 1st. That is at the core of our procrastinators. And that's what I want to help you destroy tonight. And the easiest way to destroy procrastination, because your desire has to be cultivated. And to me, desire is cultivated by taking a step, overcoming a challenge, and getting the dopamine that releases into your brain for accomplishing something. Then that becomes your motivation. Your biology is going to motivate you way more than I ever could with videos or cool speeches to get you off your butt. Because at the end of the day, I can give you all the cool speeches in the world, but you still have to do the work. Okay? So that's one of the biggest things. And it doesn't bother me because I know people are where they are. An old pastor of mine at a church I used to be in used to say, people live at the level they're taught. You can't get mad at them. They're living the best way that they know how. You know what I mean? So you just have to accept them where they are and keep it moving. So don't procrastinate. Start today. Okay? If you're the person, another example, the person that's like, hey, I'm looking to start a YouTube gaming channel. And then, a year later, that same person is still, hey, I'm checking out your videos. I'm almost ready to get started. No, you're not. Start. What are you waiting for? Go. And if the issue is you don't have knowledge to do something, start buying books. Right? Start reading about branding. And not just my book. Start reading about branding. Start reading about how to become a better writer to help you be, if you're a person that needs scripts. I don't do these types of shows from a script. I actually prefer live shows because I don't like scripts. Start taking copywriting classes, not for copyrights, but for copywriting, so that you can learn how to write better and thus articulate yourself better. Okay, start something today. You don't have to launch your channel and all your videos today, but start something. Get some knowledge, or heaven forbid, get our ebook or get Tim Schmoyer's ebook. His ebook is excellent too. Okay, so these are the things that I want to help you avoid. Or another one that really just baffles me is the people who have bought my ebook and haven't read it yet. Like, what are you waiting for? And I'm not trying to fuss at you because, you bought it. You were allowed to read it at your leisure. But you bought it with the hopes that it was going to help you be better at something. Right? At least I assume that's why I did. Or maybe you just bought it because you like me and you want to support me, and that's nice. I'd rather you buy it because you want to read it and actually implement it. What are you waiting for? And here's the deal. Here's something, a key thing that every procrastinator says. And I've been guilty of this one too. I don't do it anymore because I recognize it. I'm going to help you recognize it tonight. One of the other main things that procrastinators do is, oh, I didn't have time. Yes, you did. Every one of you, all of you telling me you don't have time, I see you on Twitter because I follow you talking about the latest game you're playing. Don't give me that crap that you didn't have time. You didn't make time. And yes, I'm being a little bit stern with you because if I don't get you out of this, this is what happens. If you don't break these tendencies, this is guaranteed, is the point of this video. It's not to say that people who procrastinate always fail, because we all procrastinate at something, but we've got to get better. We've got to start building momentum. Don't give me that crap about you didn't have time. Now, there are extenuating circumstances. I get it. If, you were struck by lightning and you're in recovery, I get it. There's probably other priorities besides reading the ebook. But those of you talking about, I just haven't had time, BS. It's total BS. When you tell somebody you don't have time, what you're really telling them is, what you are asking me to do is not a priority to me. And never spend your money on something that's not a priority. If you're not going to read and implement what we're doing here, if you're just going to be a laggard, don't spend your money just to have it sit on the shelf. Don't do it, okay? Today it starts. If you bought my ebook or if I gave it to you free, there's people who I've given free copies to who still haven't downloaded their copy. Like, not even read it yet. And I'm not trying to yell at you guys, okay? I know I get a little passionate here, but I am trying to kick you in the butt a little bit because you need it. I gave you a free copy. You haven't downloaded it yet. And yes, I know because I get messages. No, that can't be you. It can't be. Cut this out, okay? Now we got through that. Let's take some comments here, or maybe there's some questions. Let me make sure I'm not leaving anybody behind. Procrastinators are also those who find excuses not to do something. I used to be one of those. I'm still one of those. Here's the deal. Like I said, to a certain degree, we are all going to find ourselves in these. The goal is to continue to develop ourselves so that we get as far away from them as possible. Like, I'll give you an example with me and procrastination. When I have something really hard to do in my business, I will do something else in my business that's easier. And the excuse I'll make, and so it makes me feel like I'm accomplishing things. But what I'm really doing is, if you know about the cognitive biases, I'm misweighting. I'm giving this, like sending somebody an email about a question they had on a monetization video. I'm spending an hour doing that instead of spending an hour doing the copywriting for my sales page for my book. Right? That's misweighting. That is procrastination. That's what it looks like when you get better at it. It still happens though. So I have trained myself. Whenever I have something really hard to do, I do it first. And this is something I also teach people in the gym when I'm training them. Do the hardest workout first. If it's leg day, do squats first. Do them first. And then do all the other stuff. Because if you do the hardest thing first, the workouts don't get progressively easier, but you don't burn out the way you would. Like if you did all the easy stuff and then save squats until the end, you're not going to have any gas left to do your squats. Okay? So stop procrastinating. Let's see what else you guys had to say down here. Galactic Gaming says he doesn't like scripts either. Brainju says, I know a guy who became a multimillionaire and he was thrown out by his dad. He eventually bought his dad's business. It's awesome. In my experiences, the most successful people tend to be those who have lived hard. And some people do. The ones who are able not to get angry at the world and think the world owes them something because of what they've gone through. I've been guilty of that. Tend to see some modicum of success. Guardian Blade Soul says, you never want to start a YouTube channel in January. It's CPM Blues month. And that doesn't help motivation. If you think you can't earn anything because you don't know about... Okay, so you guys always hear me preach about there's no black and white answers. Let me tell you a good reason, potentially, to start a channel in January. Because there's, the season is starting to pick back up again. We're coming off of the holiday and Christmas where there's not a lot of viewership. It's a great time to do experimentation. Before, the spring to summer rush hits, you've already got your channel stocked with content. And your content has probably improved over that time. So by the time summer rolls around and people actually start discovering your channel, you actually have something there of value. So never get into the trap of thinking it's black and white. Like, never start a channel in January. There could be good reasons why you'd start a channel in January. There could be bad too. I mean, if making money is your ideal or what you're going for, then you're right. I mean, the amount of money that you're going to make potentially in January could be a little bit lower. There's ways around that too. If you get more views than you get any other time, you can balance that out. Okay? So I want you guys to start thinking, I hate to use the word or the term objective because in my observations of the universe, there's very rarely something that's completely objective. You know what I mean? Like people, it's always funny, people always complain on my reviews. This isn't objective. Like, no kidding. I'm a human being with biases. And if you think for a minute that some reviewer is not going to give you their bias, you're out of your mind. These people that want these highly objective reviews where they're only just facts, read the back of the box on the game if that's what you want. Like if you just want objective fact, and even that's biased, so never mind. Just read the specs on Wikipedia if all you want is the facts. If you don't want someone's opinion and someone's take and someone's unique perspective, you shouldn't be watching or reading a review. Now, there should be some objectivity in there. It shouldn't all be editorializing and saying this game sucks because I hate it. There should be some, I didn't like it. Like I was talking with some friends. I had some good commentary on a Final Fantasy IV review that I did recently, where the guy was frustrated because in his observation it lacked objectivity, and he was right in terms of the way I presented it, but what I meant and what was coming across were two different things. So he was a little bit up in arms about it. And so what I told him was, in the future I probably could have expounded a little bit more so that you would have noticed, because I was able to explain to him in the comments, this is what I was intending to say, right? And it just I didn't quite get it right. You know what I mean? So there should be some level of objectivity, but I want you to start thinking outside of the black and white, like this is right, this is wrong. You should never put this in your title. You should never put this in your tags. You should always... nobody is ever always anything. That's one of the most amazing quotes I've ever heard in my life, and I wish for the life of me I could remember who said it, and I can't. Every time I think of the quote, I think of Michael Clark Duncan, but he's not the one who said it. But there was a very wise man one day that told me, nobody is ever always anything. Okay? So keep that in mind. Let's keep going here. Jeff James says, love your book, Alloy. Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Oh, another procrastinating group. Let's talk about that. Speaking of my book, I have told everyone, and maybe you haven't seen the video, so if this doesn't apply to you, if the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it. I have told everyone that if you bought my book, there's an opportunity for you to also make money off the book by becoming an affiliate. And if you become an affiliate, I give you a huge chunk of the profits if you sell a book. Now, I've offered that to everybody that follows me on Twitter. I've offered it on Google+. I've said it in videos. And a lot of people aren't taking me up on it. Like, that's free money. Like, and now, granted, you wouldn't want to become an affiliate if you thought the book was garbage. So, if that's you, then I get it. And if you do think it's garbage, then we need to talk because you need a refund. But, or if, within reason, granted, there's some nuance there. But the point is, if you're trying to earn extra income, why wouldn't you become, and not just my book, like there's other stuff out there that you could be doing affiliate marketing for. But I have specifically opened that up to my people to say, hey, as a thank you for buying my book, here is an opportunity. And granted, yes, it does help me get sales. I'm not going to lie about that. Obviously, I am getting a cut of what you're doing, but I'm splitting a huge portion of it with you as a thank you for helping out, so that you can put a little extra change in your pocket at the same time spreading what I think is a good message. Okay? Now, that brings us to the second group of people, and I need to be very careful with how I say this because Brain Juice and I got into a very good discussion about this, which caused me to go back, and part of the reason why I'm doing this video was I needed to go back and expound on it a little bit. Kaz says, I love the games that get universally panned before... So even that's not 100%. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, a lot of people don't know how being an affiliate works, except that I explained it to them. Like I've sent out emails saying this is how it's done. You go here, put in your email address. And again, like I said, Brain Juice, if the shoe doesn't fit, if you didn't hear about it, you didn't get an email, you didn't see it on social media, it's totally cool. I'm just using it as an example that there are opportunities in front of you that you don't want to procrastinate on, okay? You never want to leave money on the table. Especially, like, I don't know how many of you have a family to take care of. It's so funny being in the games community, like, being a gamer where money and earning money is so evil. It's bananas. Like, music industry and gaming are the only two places I've ever worked where people complain that the employees in this industry get paid. You know what I mean? Like, nobody gets mad that the dude at the post office, no one calls him a sellout if he delivers a package in a different way. You know what I mean? Or if anyway, the point is, if the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it. But there's opportunity here for everyone to benefit. And you definitely want to take advantage of that. The next group of people, I'm going to be very specific here. The next group of people are our extreme cynics. Okay, and I say extreme, and that's based on a conversation that I had with Brain Juice where he was saying, you know, there is value to people being cynical, and he's right. Because we have developed over thousands upon thousands of years to develop a certain level of cynicism because it's kept our species alive. Okay? And cynicism in its purest form is a person, when they look at someone else, they believe that person is only self-interested and motivated for their own good. In other words, they tend to never see altruism in people. Okay? But I want to make the point here very clear that we're talking about extreme cynics. Okay, you know, and the analogy I used in a previous video was in combat. There were situations where I remember one day specifically we were called to go into this building where there were civilians, and we didn't know what necessarily we were going to face based on what was going on in there. So when we go in armed into this building and I have my guys with me, I'm telling them, you know, you keep, I can't remember what my rules of engagement were, whether we kept one round in the chamber, but be ready to fight was what I told them, because we don't know what we're going to experience once we get into the building. Okay? So, you know, like I remember one day in the middle of a firefight, this guy runs across a field and jumps in a ditch, and it's like, we don't know if that's an enemy combatant or a civilian, so we start engaging. And I had some interpreters with me, and I had them yelling in his native tongue, either get out of the ditch or we got to take you out because we don't know if you're hostile or not. Now, it turned out he wasn't hostile. We got him out of the ditch and everything was fine because we're not in the business of just trying to indiscriminately hurt people. But if somebody means my people harm, you can best believe. So there was a level of cynicism. He jumps in the ditch. I'm thinking he may mean us harm, so I am going to take action as if he means us harm. So that's cynicism in its purest form, okay? And that's healthy cynicism. The cynicism that leads somebody to believe that all the presidents of the United States are part of some reptilian race from space that's come down. Do I even need to finish that sentence? So your cynics are your people that just, your extreme cynics see almost no good in anybody. Like they're always in this, everybody's out to get them, or, you know, everyone's out, it's every man for himself and nobody's altruistic. Like they can never see the good in anything anybody does. And if you get good at YouTube, you better be ready for these people, okay? Because they are coming. And they're a part of, and when I write down the next one, and actually the next three are a part of this as well. The next three form a trifecta on the internet that I call the vocal minority. And so what I mean by that is oftentimes the people who scream the loudest about negativity, the games industry especially has a tendency to assign that, oh, the games industry is so negative right now. Everybody's so negative. Everybody's always fussing and complaining. No, they're not. The very loud people are fussing and complaining. These are the guys on the message forums that always have something smart to say to somebody. Okay? Now, but here's a trick though for my creators. Learn from your cynics, because they're going to give you there's cognitive biases that work in the mind. And from my perspective, people who are overly cynical are driven by fear. Okay? Like they're afraid that someone is trying to take advantage of them. So they see someone trying to take advantage of them in everything, to the point where it becomes paralyzing for them. Okay? And you don't want to be this person. This person doesn't win in the end. Okay? They may win if the zombie apocalypse kicks off. Cool. Go ahead and become that guy. But until that day, it's not going to help you survive or thrive. But as a creator, these people, first of all, like I said, if you get good, they are coming. And they're coming in mass. But you can learn from them. Because the things that they're going to critique about you are things that, again, remember, it's part of their own cognitive bias a lot of times. But there is some objective nuggetry that you can pull out from what they're saying. In other words, they heard you say X, or you said X, they heard Y. Listen to what they heard. Even if you know that what they're saying is false, like the ones that I deal with on a regular basis kind of attribute this idea that I'm disingenuine or that I'm somehow taking advantage of people, and in the weirdest ways. Like, why is that what I would do to take advantage? Like, if I'm taking advantage of somebody, I'm not doing, a post on a gaming forum to do that, you know what I mean? But listen to them. Because if you're humble, you can learn that if this person sees you that way, there's a chance that someone who may still be cynical, but a little bit less so, could be swayed into seeing you that way. So you want to make sure you're very careful with the way that you present yourself. And because I'm very overt, I don't mince words and I don't sugarcoat a lot of things. Like, it's funny, the very seldom times that I end up engaging with social media, I've been called passive aggressive. And what I have to tell people is, no, I'm being aggressive. There's nothing passive about my personality whatsoever. What you're used to is somebody in real life saying that to you under their breath and kind of in a snide remark. If we were in real life, I'd look you in the face and tell you to your face that that's what I think about you. So there is very little, if anything, passive about my personality. But on the internet, it comes across as such. So knowing that about myself, if I'm conveying myself in an email or on a message post, I have to be very careful because these folks own the corners of the internet. All right, they own the message forums. They own it in terms of they're usually very active. Okay, because in their life they're probably not very social people because they're always so suspicious of everybody that they really don't have an opportunity to connect with other people because they're always suspicious of somebody. Okay, again, a healthy level of suspicion is a good thing. You don't want to get taken advantage of. Like, one of the things I tell people on my streams all the time: don't share your personal information. Because there are people out there that will take advantage of you. That's a form of cynicism. Okay? And my personality, I tend to be more of a skeptic. I'm not so much a cynic, but I can be a skeptic. So, and I have to keep that in check. All right? So you don't want to be extreme with it. A certain level of defending yourself and keeping yourself safe is wise. But when it gets to the point where you believe that, like I always use the joke, the humorous example that the leaders of the world are a reptilian alien race thing, because that comes from a deep-seated fear of being taken advantage of. And usually you can tie it back to something that's happened in the lifetime of that person that was so traumatic that they can't escape the fear part of the brain that handles fear. They're unable to escape it, and it just terrorizes and paralyzes them. Okay? But if you're like... And I'm not saying like if you have a chemical imbalance or if you have an issue that needs help, that just thinking hard about it's going to fix you. You may need to get professional help if you're like off the charts crazy with it. And I don't mean crazy in a negative connotation. Like if you are extreme with it, that's what you have to be careful of. But just keep your cynicism in check. Don't always assume the worst in everybody because chances are they don't mean the worst. They don't. Going back to the gaming community is very big about. They get mad that people make money off of what they do. I'm like, money is that's how we do exchange on the planet. If there's no money, people don't eat. So what do you expect people to do? Like, just make video game footage with 40 hours a week of their time and not be compensated in some way because they're passionate about it? Give me a break. That's insanity. You wouldn't go to your job because you loved it so much and, hey, we're not going to pay you for the next year. So just come in and do your passion. That's ridiculous. Okay? All right. Let's take some comments on that. Let's see. Uh-oh. People are talking about Shrek too. What's up, Rico's Reef? How are you, man? Noxious Karn is here. Hello. Brain Juice says, no, this doesn't feel like school. You actually learn stuff in these videos. That's an awesome comment, by the way. That is awesome. So remember, everything's nuanced, guys. No black and white answers. We're talking about extremes here, all right? If you tend to be a little bit cynical, it's not the end of the world. And here's the other deal, too. You got to know the psychology of yourself, okay? You got to know what makes you, you. Certain personality types are driven to be more cynical, okay? So I'm not asking you to rewire who you are. I'm just asking you to balance yourself and keep tendencies that can lead you to failure from driving you there, okay? Like, for example, in my experience, what I've seen with personality testing for the last 18 years is that SJs have a tendency to be more cynical. If you've taken the Myers-Briggs test, it's not going to be true every time, but what I've seen in a lot of cases is that SJs have a tendency to be more cynical, and their psychological makeup, because they're conservators, they're very conservative, and I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about they're the people that store up for the rainy day, but to an extreme to where they're never allocating resources to get more resources. They're just stockpiling, which is just as bad as, overspending. There's a wise quote from one of the richest men who's ever lived in the universe, where he says, one of the last thing a wise man would stockpile is money. And it's funny, too, because people start talking, the cynics always talk about corporations are evil. They're trying to take over all the money. No, they're not, because they understand that the way to actually build wealth is to put money out. And that's what people don't understand about business, is they think it's all about hoarding resources and getting customers. And getting customers is obviously a part of it, but businesses that play in the big leagues, it's allocating resources, okay? Just like in war. There's so many... War prepared me for business very well because it's the allocation of resources. If you keep all your troops in the base, you can never win the war. You have to send them out to fight. And the risk is that some of them are going to get hurt or killed. Some of your money's not going to come back to you. But the only way you make more money, i.e. take more land in war, is you send troops out to go get it. So the people who think these companies are just trying to suck you dry of your money, it's not true. They're trying to bring in resources so they can allocate more resources so they can make more people happy and thus continue to grow that and empower more people. Now, that's not to say, cynics, that corporations don't do crappy stuff, because they do, and some of them are evil. Okay, it's not to say that nothing is wrong or that nothing is black and white. Some companies are crappy, and some companies are not necessarily completely evil, but they don't do the best thing for their customers, okay? But the cynics, usually the extreme cynics, take it too far. They got, drawing devil horns on the CEO. It's like, come on, guys. Like, let's pull that together a little bit. All right. Let's take some commentary here before we jump to the next one. If you're a little bit cynical, you're not crazy. You're just living in a world where terrorists are mass murdering people. Yeah, that's true. But the other thing people have to consider with the whole violence in the world thing is it's less than 1% of the human population is even... 1% of the human population is all that's capable of doing that harm. And less than 1% of the ones that are extremist, socio and psychopaths who are doing that stuff. So while it does pay to be vigilant, absolutely, it doesn't pay to allow media bias to turn you into to fearmonger you into hiding in your house. Okay? All right. Are we talking about Microsoft? No, we're not. No, and I don't think Microsoft is the pinnacle of injustice and evil that people think it is. I mean, come on, most of the people that say that too, and you go in their house, I guarantee you they have an Xbox, whether it's the 360, the original, or whatever. It's like, come on, guys. You can't hate a company and think it's evil and buy their products. And there's going to be one guy on the show, I don't buy the products. Like, okay, got it. But you know what I mean. Like, I would love if everybody had to read the financial reports of the companies they think are evil before they make that assessment. These companies tell you how they spend their money. It's like, hold on. All right, let me just put my money where my mouth is. Okay? This, my friends, is Google's financial report from 2014. I printed it out so that I could read it for myself, for my business, for what I do here on YouTube, but also to help other people with some of the information. They tell you what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, where all their money's going, where all their money's coming from. This is regulated and mandated by the U.S. government, okay? If they were these heinous evil corporations, you'd be able to tell because it'd be right here, all right? So, not saying that corporations don't sometimes do the wrong thing. Not saying that Assassin's Creed Unity wasn't a Charlie Foxtrot. I got that. But that's one blip on a radar. And see, that's the other problem, too, is it should right up here. Humans with short-term memory. Like, they only remember the last thing you did to piss them off. They don't remember the 20 years of awesomeness that happened, and then the one thing you did wrong, the overly cynical people turn against you. Let's see. Sugarfoot says cynicism and hypocrisy tend to go hand in hand. I don't know if I agree with that. I think hypocrisy can go hand in hand with a lot of things. So maybe I do agree with it. But, hypocrisy can go hand in hand with a lot of things, I guess. Okay, so let's talk about the third group. Okay. That may look like an N to you, but that says overly judgmental people. Okay? AKA the internet's favorite term, the haters. All right, now we're on to the haters. Okay. So if overly cynical people are driven by fear, I'd say overly judgmental people are somewhat driven by fear, but they're also driven by envy. So who are your haters? They are the people. I actually had this happen to me once when I was in college. I was at a party with somebody that I knew very well, and we were talking to some girls, and the girls were taking a liking to me, we'll say. Not in an improper way, but friendly conversation was being had. And under his breath, this other dude is mumbling things like these ladies are giving compliments to me as we're talking, and I'm responding in kind. And this dude's under his breath. I could hear him. The sick part about it was I could hear the dude saying he ain't all that. I don't know what these ladies talking about. Like, what? Like, even if I'm not all that, by the way, which I don't think I am, in a lot of regards, even if what he's saying is true, why would you do that? Why would you see? And this is something I've never been able to understand about overly judgmental. Another word I'd use for overly judgmental people is cowards. I've never been able to understand why. If you see somebody succeeding, and another word is arrogant coward, or prideful coward is probably a better way to say it. You see somebody winning, and instead of humbling yourself and going up to this person, this lady or this guy, and saying, hey, I saw that you did a really good job with X. Could you help me out? Because I'm trying to do that too. So instead of dude waiting until the end of the party and saying, yo, were you able to get those ladies to kind of take a liking to you during the party? Like, I'm trying to step my game up. And it wasn't a magic trick. I was just being friendly and nice to people, which goes a real long way, you might find surprising. And he could have pulled me to the side and said, hey, man, how were you able to, these girls didn't really know you like that, but they took to you immediately. And I'm like, well, I did this. Like, instead of humbling yourself and saying, I kind of suck at this, which is what's really going on. Your judgmental people are people that suck at stuff, and so they just pick your stuff apart, okay? They're haters. They're the people in your reviews and on your gaming videos telling you how bad you suck at the game. That's a hater. That's a judgmental person. And the reason why they're doing that is because they suck at things. Now, they may not suck at the game, because usually the person that's hating on you thinks they're very great at it, but they see you succeeding, because even if succeeding is nothing more than the fact that you're on YouTube, and even if you don't have 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 or 1 million subscribers, you're here in the trenches fighting, trying, and they're not. Look at here's what I want you to do. For the next month, and if you don't have any haters yet, just wait. They're coming. Don't worry. If you hang with me long enough, they'll show up. They will be here. When the haters show up, here's what I want you to do. Click on their channel and just look. And I want you to come back to me. You can write me an email or a PM, whatever you want to do. If you find one of them that has more than 100 or 1,000, 100 you could get just from existing. Come back to me if one of them has more than 1,000 subscribers. You know why? Because the people who are actually having any level of success know how freaking hard it is. Okay? Whether you have 1 million, 1,000, 500, or 100, you knew what it took to get every one of those 100 people to subscribe to your channel. And so when you see somebody else succeeding, if you're on this channel and you're one of our ninjas, you shut your mouth and you look at what success looks like so that you can emulate it. That's what humble, smart people do. Overly judgmental people are the ones mad because PewDiePie is the top of YouTube. Yes, I said it. Okay? I don't care if you don't like his content. I don't care if you don't agree with his content. That is your God-given, and whatever country you live in, given rights as a human being. But for you to sit here and tell me that the reason why you're not successful is because PewDiePie has 40 million subscribers, you're delusional and you're lying to yourself. And look, I'm not a big fan of his content. Don't get me wrong, because I praise what he does on YouTube and I respect it. I don't watch it. I don't necessarily enjoy it, but I understand success, and I understand how hard it is to get success. In every area of my life where I've had it, I've had to bleed for it. And you're not going to come in here and tell me that he hasn't bled in some way, shape, or form, that it's just YouTube is just promoting him because he's making the money. You're dang right they're promoting him because he's making the money, because he's figured out how to do something that you aren't. And instead of humbling yourself and maybe following his channel and learning a thing or two, you just want to be judgmental because you're a coward, overly judgmental person who cannot, or at least will not, do something yourself. All right? And if I get a little bit strong with this, sorry if the army comes out of me sometimes, but you need to hear it. If you were this person, you might as well pack your bags for the island of failure, because that's where you're headed. Okay? You don't have to like his content. All right? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you even have to say it's great, because in my estimation, what I consider to be great, what I value in my life, it's not. But I understand what it takes to be highly successful in a lot of things in life. Okay? And a lot of it has to do with decision. A lot of it has to do with the humility to do what other people want you to do, and instead of what you want to do yourself. And it's funny because when I watch him, it's almost like, you know, the perceivers, the kind of visionary type people like me. We're not always right, but we can see through, we can almost see people's thoughts behind their eyes. And when I watch him perform, I see a person partially who is suffering, because he's had to play the buffoon, because human psychology has turned us into a bunch of pleasure-seeking robots. We're zombies chasing mirages. One of my mentors tells me all the time. We are zombies chasing mirages. And so he's having to pander to these zombies. And I'm not saying that if you're a fan of his content that you are a zombie. It's okay if you like it. But by and large, people are sheepish. Okay? And I sense in him that there is something more that he wants to give, but he's afraid to do it because of what it could mean to his livelihood. All right? So I'll get off my soapbox a little bit here. But cut this crap out. And not for my sake. Because every time you show up on my stuff, I love it. Because all you do is create more engagement for my videos. Because you inevitably either piss somebody from my community off, or you piss off another person who I've never seen before. And you're just bringing more views and more engagement to my channel. So please, overly judgmental people, if you like failure, stay there and continue commenting on our videos. But if you're on this channel and you're trying to do something better with yourself, and most of you, if not all of you, don't have to worry about this lecture that I'm giving right now. Okay? But I want to eradicate any chance that you don't humble yourself into thinking, because, you know, what a very wise man said to me, who does very well as a marketer on YouTube, a guy that teaches me, says, he's like, if you have a problem growing on YouTube, you have a you problem. He's like, it's, you know, we talk about SEO, we talk about, you know, ranking in search. He's like, yeah, this stuff's all good. He's like, but the fact of the matter is there's people that don't do any of that, and they do extremely well because they're compelling. Something we talk about in the YouTube Gamers Academy. He's like, if you're, and he said, he didn't just say YouTube. He said, if your social media is not growing, you have a you problem. You have a problem with making something that's compelling. And now you want to blame the famous people of the world that your success or lack thereof is somehow their fault or YouTube's fault for promoting what's making them money. It's not. You know, and the example that I give folks is YouTube promotes my stuff too. I have stuff right now that if you do certain search terms, it comes up first in search. Didn't lead me to 40 million subscribers. You know why? Because it's not that compelling. Or, better stated, it's not that compelling to 40 million people. It's compelling to a couple 100,000. Sure. But it's not compelling to the masses. All right? And I harp on that. This is something I coach out of people. Because if I had to pick one of the worst, I mean, there's no worst, obviously, but this will kill you. Not only will this make you fail, it can literally kill people because they live in fear. They live in this, and it's delusion. It's, I think I'm better than everybody else, so I deserve something that they have that I don't. No, you don't. If you deserved it, the world would figure it out that you deserve it, and you'd have it. 9.9 times out of 10. Of course, there's exceptions to the rule where injustice just happens, right? So again, we're not talking black and whites. We're not talking in absolutes, but we are talking, and we're certainly not going to make our points based on anomalies. The one guy where that wasn't true isn't the way we're not going to use him as a microcosm for the human race. Okay? So stay out of this crap right here. Get it out of your mind that if YouTube would only promote my stuff, I'd be famous. No, you would not. Your stuff is not that good. If it were, it'd be getting shared. It would be viral. Okay? And by good, I don't mean just, subjective entertainment. I mean, it solved a problem that a lot of people had. That's a really easy way to get famous. It solved a problem that a lot of people have. Okay? You want to get 1 million views on something? Make a video about something that 1 million people desperately need. How many of your gaming videos do that? Some of the people that work with my channel do have several, tens to hundreds of thousands of views because they created something that people needed. Was it 1 million? No, because there's not 1 million people in that particular market, but they cornered the market on what they did. That's successful because they humbled themselves and gave the people something they needed instead of looking at me, my content's so great, why doesn't YouTube promote me? Because you haven't given something to the world that's worthy of that level of promotion. And people always argue, well, I hate using PewDiePie all the time as an example, but pick whatever YouTuber you're mad about being successful. They do give something to the world. I'll tell you what he gives to the world. It's happiness and distraction. I mean, Beavis and Butthead, look at all the shows that are popular on TV. Which one of those is saving lives and changing the world? For none of them. They're just providing people a distraction from a life that they think is quasi-sucky. That's it. And more people chase that than chase insight or any of these other types of things, unless your insight is strong enough to, like I said, to solve a problem. Okay, I harped on that enough. Let's see. Brain Juice says he's got to go. Sorry to see you go, Brain Juice, but glad you were here. He said I could use my mage power. His soapbox is too strong. Man, the past few times I've been coming to these streams, they always have just a little bit more viewers every time. All right, what else do we got? Any questions? Did I miss any questions? Bubble Boy. Yeah, like the people in their bubble is about to become a meme. A bunch of people have been sharing that in different places. It's cool, man. Actually, I don't know if it'll be a meme. It's probably a little bit over. Because it won't be a meme because people have to accept that it's true about them, and self-absorbed people don't like to hear that they're self-absorbed. Todd Link says, I just wanted to say I haven't started my channel yet, mainly because I'm moving and money. But I'm glad I found you so I can start it right. Thank you. Thank you, Todd. Okay. So it doesn't look like there's been any questions. Uh-oh, Donald Trump's... Oh, Donald Trump. The Donald Trump bot. I don't know what it is about my channel. Does everybody attract the Donald Trump bot, or is it just me? All right, last one. And remember, these three kind of go together. So bear that in mind. Here's our last one. Nitpickers. Okay? I'm not talking about people that are detailed. I'm not talking about people who like things to be good and in order. I'm talking about everybody knows the guy. And if this is you, understand that if you're keeping it under control, it's, like I said, certain personality temperaments are going to be drawn to these in different ways, okay? Like, for example, I harp on this one because I used to be this dude. When I first got started in music, I was him. So I'm not just preaching about it. I'm not preaching at you. I'm telling you what I used to be. There was a time where communities that I worked in, this is what they knew me as. And at the time, I was so arrogant and prideful that I couldn't even tell that that's what I was. All right, so don't think I'm above any of my, yelling. All right, I'm just as guilty. But here with our nitpickers, everybody knows the guy that will correct you if you spell there instead of there. That, well, I think what you meant was Their instead of There. Like, bro, like that is a one-way ticket to the land of fail. And here's why. Okay, it's not because you're detail-oriented. It's not because you're a stickler for details. Being a stickler for details can be very effective. If you're in charge of making sure that my teams have enough ammunition to survive a fight, I'd like you to be a little detail-oriented. If you're my CPA who manages the accounts for my businesses, yeah, I'd like you to pick one or two nits, all right? What I don't want you picking nits on is, do I need to write this? Is crap that does not matter. Somebody spelling there wrong on Twitter, if that gets you on the campaign trail, you're losing. You're already here. If this is you, I pray for you. I really, really do. And if it is you, you need to get out of it immediately. Because here's the deal. It's not, you may have a personality temperament that drives you to be detail-oriented, which is good when you put it to use, say, editing a video or coming up with a detailed plan for how you're going to roll out content. It's not good when you're yelling at people on Twitter about misspelling a word. And it never fails. Like they've created a narrative for themselves. I watch it happen on social media all the time. Well, I am just a stickler for good grammar. Like they have their chest stuck out, like the American flag is behind them and it's waving, and like the America the Beautiful is playing. I am a stickler for good grammar. Like, dude, go home. Just cut the games. Like, nobody cares. And yes, we should be able to articulate ourselves and communicate properly. And if I were writing a letter to Bill Gates to ask him to mentor me, I'd probably spell there right. But for the love of God, if I'm trying to tell somebody to come to an effing YouTube stream on Twitter, we don't need to be corrected about there and there. And here's the deal. Don't misunderstand my fired upness. I don't get angry when people do this at me. My first response is usually laughter and then pity, because it means that you're stuck in a place of picking out things that don't matter. And part of it, too, is because you're one of these two probably very closely go together, too. Instead of focusing on what matters, you focus on insignificant things. You know why? Actually, I worked with a person like this, and it was a freaking nightmare. I remember I was trying to prepare them for a presentation that they had to do in front of a fairly large audience. And I'm trying to walk them through, here's the key points that you need to be aware of so that you get your message across properly. This person, and I lie to you not, because we're going through the script that I had put together for this person on paper. This person stops me and says, hey, keep in mind, this script is just for them. It's not, no one else is going to see it. They're like, hey, shouldn't that be a semicolon instead of a period? And I literally got this close to their face. I said, I have 7 minutes to prepare you for this presentation. Do you want to argue with me about periods and semicolons, or do you want to get the contextual information you need to get this message across to your people so that the business can be successful? Okay, you can tell I don't have a lot of patience for it. And the reason why is because I'm a former combat officer. So here's the deal. With all of these things, it's not just about failing on YouTube. You want to know why I make videos like this too? Because in the world that I come from, this crap will get you killed. The lack of humility that makes you think you're better than everybody else. Like one of the overly judgmental people, this is something stupid they would do. If I put you in front of a weapon system that you don't know how to use, and we're getting ready to go through a town, okay? And when we go through a town, we're in what's called a formation, such that every person has a job and they're keeping each other safe, all right? Keeping the bad guys from hurting us. If I hand you a weapon system, and because you're an overly judgmental person who thinks you're better than you are at stuff, you don't know how to use that weapon system, and you just say, yeah, I got this. And then we get in a fight, and you don't know how to use your weapon. Instead of being a humble person and saying, hey, yo, I don't know how to use this. Can someone help me? You don't find a lot of alive soldiers that behave like this. Okay? And I probably could say that better. You don't find, because I don't want to sound disrespectful to friends that I've lost in combat. What I'm saying is, very specifically, you don't find this, you don't find the I don't ever do anything wrong mentality in that arena, because guys know better. They know that being humble and asking for help when you need it is what keeps you alive. Same thing goes for YouTube. So, going back to the previous comment, it's not that these people are who don't make it. Sometimes stuff just happens. I have lost friends. I've had friends, I've told you guys, get shot in the face. It's not because they were overly judgmental. In fact, the friends that I had that have passed, I think almost all of them were trying to save somebody else. They were doing the opposite of this. Okay? But in the worlds that I come from, this type of nonsense gets people killed. And so, yeah, I bring a little bit more passion to it than you probably need for succeeding in business or on YouTube. But the principle is still the same. This crap will kill your success. Okay? That's what I'm trying to get across to you. You don't find this stuff on the battlefield. And so what I want to do, as we're going through this, hopefully you guys have started to pick out, where your weakness is. And I want you to do that. I'm not going to have you comment here. You can if you like. Matter of fact, let's do that. In the comment section, tell me which one of these you struggle with the most. Just pick one. If you struggle with all of them, pick the one that's the worst. Okay? And then start thinking through, what are you going to do in order to actually reverse, in order to fix it? Okay? What are you going to do to not be a nitpicker, to not be the guy? And it's not that you're a stickler for grammar that's making you fail. I want to be very clear about that. It's not the picking of the nits that makes you fail, because picking the right nits can be helpful. It's the cognitive bias of misweighting. You're giving too much importance to, like I said, things that don't matter. And when you focus on the things that don't matter, when a business focuses, when Microsoft focuses on making video games, they're probably not going to go out of business, but video games don't really make them a lot of money, because it's not their core business. They're focusing. That's why you hear every year that conversation comes up. My assumption, I don't know if it's true, but I believe that conversation comes up every year. Do we need to sell off Xbox? Because it's almost like it's just a distraction in terms of the amount of money that company makes. It's funny too, because people are like, Xbox is so evil. Like, it's such an infinitesimal amount of money that company makes from Xbox. Like, that's where they're trying. No, if they're trying to rip people off, they'd be doing it with server infrastructure, right, and office software. They certainly wouldn't be trying to rip people off with the little piddly money they make on Xbox. Okay, so everybody's got that, right? Let's see what you guys have. Ayrton is here. Okay, so there we go. His passion is starting to override his political. Man, I have no political correctness. Matter of fact, Sugar, you know better. If you've been on any of my other streams that aren't, the 7-minute, that was the other reason why I wanted to get away from those 7-minute teaching videos too, because I couldn't really be myself. Like, here's the 7 tips I'm going to teach you how to do it. It's like a minstrel show. I hated doing that stuff, man. I didn't hate helping people. I love that part of it, but I hated the format. It's just so canned in, music in the background, and I'm going to come up here and soft shoe for you. Like, come on, dude. But yeah, there's one thing you want to know about me. I am not politically correct in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so, oh my God, Sausage says the problem is procrastination. So does Bake Sale. Political correctness can suck it, says the Guardian Soulblade. The Celluloid Knight says procrastination. Galactic Gaming says nitpicker. Also, you nitpickers are the ones who spend too much time editing your videos for YouTube. Like, have you guys not found out that, like, literally phone cameras are, like, what works on YouTube, not Hollywood caliber editing? Just thought I'd throw that out there. So you could be picking nits with, I've had people like, hey B, do you prefer this type of noise gate when you're recording, like, dude, I don't even, like, cut it out. Nitpicker says Galactic Gaming. Procrastination says Kai. Kai, I'm glad you stuck with us. I thought you had to leave. I'm glad you're still here. Oh, you probably thought it was at 1 a.m. That's why. Yeah. YouTube's been tripping. I need to check my settings because it keeps setting me to the wrong time zone. Matter of fact, I think it may be the app that I'm using. I have to check that. Jolly says, for me, it's procrastination. I get ahead of myself with lessons and things to do until I'm drowning in things to do. Yes, that is called the paradox of choice. That's why Steam sales, that's why nobody ever finishes their video games. It's the paradox of choice. You have too many options, which, if you've noticed with me, I've narrowed down the games that I play tremendously because the paradox of choice makes it so that you never finish anything. AMB Gaming says procrastinator, and all I'm changing about myself is prioritizing. You know, when I'm not working the full-time job, I'm changing that. Okay, cool. All right. What else do we have? What else do people struggles with? Procrastination. So it looks like procrastination. So good news is you struggle with the one that's probably the easiest to fix because it's the one that everybody struggles with to a degree, regardless of personality, temperament. These down here really focus on, you know, a specific type of personality. And you can't really change your personality temperament, but you can change your behaviors when you know your personality temperament. So we're not, the hardwiring that these are tied to is a little harder to get over than, and I'm going to tell you some things about how to stop procrastinating here in a second. Kaz says, yes, a few months from now I'll be more humble and drop down to 10th or 20th best procrastinator. My problem with procrastination, says the game machine, I do feel so overwhelmed easily. So here's some tips for getting over procrastination. Let's assume that none of us are the nitpickers or the overly judgmental people or the haters. And to be honest with you, I knew coming in that the bulk of you were not the other three. I just want to eradicate any chance, and I want to kill. The main reason why I want to talk about this, because, you know, I said these three make up what I call the vocal minority on the internet. I want you to avoid the groupthink that the vocal minority purports, because it stems from delusion, this idea that I should be just as popular as PewDiePie. Because people even say it to me. They're like, your content's so good, why are you not the one that's popular? Because I don't make what 40 million people want to watch. It's not good enough. And see, the problem is it's not good enough in terms of quality or the value of my content. It's not good enough for why people are here, which is to find a distraction, you know, or find some quick information and keep their lives moving. You know, not a whole lot of people. I'm telling you, some of the best channels that I learned from, guys who are industry people who are like professional SEOs that have taught me, you know, they barely have more subscribers than me. And these dudes have websites and businesses that Google works with and gives like information to. Like, these people are very well known in that industry. Okay? You have to know what people are looking for, man. I don't want to kill any potential for you to get into the delusion that you are better than you think you are. And me too. And like, I'm not judging anybody here, okay? It's just, it's really humbling ourselves. All right, so with the procrastination, a couple of different things that I want you to do. First of all, not black and white. Just, these are suggestions, okay? Let's first recognize that motivation is not the problem. Because what we try to do is we go external and we try to find motivation. Like, people that I've trained before have literally told me, and I respond very directly. They're like, oh, B, you got to get us motivated for this workout. No, I don't. I can't motivate you. All I can do is show you how to do the work. You know, I can encourage you when you're down and you're hurting, but the motivation comes from in here. And where motivation comes from is what I mean by motivation is not the problem. There is a bigger problem. And that is, do you want it bad enough? And I'm going to use some very strong words here, but please understand that I am being, I'm using metaphor. Okay, let's not use the strong words. Let me back that out. I got to take into account the different types of people who may watch. Do you want it bad enough to hurt? Is the word. I was going to use a different word there, but I'm going to say hurt. But I'm using that figuratively. Okay, I'm not talking about doing yourself harm. Do you want it bad enough to hurt for it? Because anything you want to do in life that's hyper successful is going to take you going through some pain to get to the point where, like I told you when I was a bodybuilder, and I still do train. I'm just not huge like I used to be. One of my goals was to be able to bench press 500 pounds, to be able to set 500 pounds actually. Like I was using a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger systems, except I was doing it naturally. I found out very quickly that in order to get that strong, your workouts have to hurt. You can't just go in the gym, high five your buddies, sit down at the bench, do the crazy thing where you pull yourself up 6 times and breathe, and then you rep out 6 reps and then rack it up and then raise the weight. No, you got to come in there ready to hurt. I remember the first time I benched over 400 pounds, and I literally had 2 dudes spotting me on, not even behind me, they were on the side so that they could grab the weight and get it, back up. And it's because I knew I was going to make myself hurt to the point where they would have to help me. You don't get stronger by not putting yourself through that pain. And the same thing goes with your YouTube stuff. Your problem isn't that you lack motivation. Your problem is you lack motivation because you don't want it bad enough. Like I said in the analogy earlier, you have to forgive me, guys. Sinuses or something else. In the analogy I used earlier where people say, I'm just not motivated to go to the gym. I said, yeah, but if I catch you on the street and I release a bear to chase you or a lion, I bet you'll run the fastest mile you've ever run in your life because your life's on the line. And unfortunately, that goes back to the question with supply and demand that we've been talking about here in the streams. But also, it goes back to the whole question of why are some channels more popular than others? Well, it's because they give people more of what they want. When I put that lion on the street, you're going to run for your life. And what ends up happening is most people aren't willing to run for their life until the lion is at the door. And that's what I got to break you out of. But a lot of people can't break out of it because they don't have the knowledge that you have to want it bad enough to where I've literally, this is no BS. This is not, I'm not saying this for comedic effect. I literally get joy out of hurting in the gym. The part I get to that rep where I have to give every part of my soul to get that last rep out, for whatever psycho reason, I get some weird sense of joy. Like there's some chemical, it's probably dopamine that's releasing in my brain when I do that, that's rewarding me for you're beating yourself into more strength, into more size, into being more cut every time. Like I look forward to the discomfort. But I trained, now hear me, I trained for 6 years to be able to get to that point. Okay? Like you don't get here just by starting your channel. Because you start your channel and then you start to have trouble. And it's like, man, this is hard. Like getting people interested in what I'm doing is hard. You're right. It is hard. Because one, you have to be interesting. And to be interesting, you have to know stuff. That's why do you think, I'm going to say this, I don't really say this on a lot of my streams, I say it to my kids all the time. Why do you think my library is bigger than my game collection? And this is getting smaller, by the way. I don't know if you guys have been noticing that in video. More and more games are getting the heck out of here because I'm selling them. Like, I don't need any of this crap anymore. I'm keeping, like, the ones that I want to do reviews for and the stuff that I play all the time, and that's it. I'm done. Why do you think my library is bigger than my game collection? And the game collection is getting smaller. Because in order for me to be interesting, I have to know stuff. You wouldn't just come here and listen to me if I rambled on about nonsense. And there's probably people that would argue I am rambling on about nonsense. But fortunately, there's people that disagree with that. But you have to cultivate this. Desire doesn't just start when you're not hurting and hungry. If any of you out there have been broke, like trying to figure out which bill you're not going to pay this month broke, I don't know if everybody can relate to me on that, but I've been there more times in my life than I would care to recount. or that hard talk you have to have where you go to your family and ask for money because something didn't work out. I remember when I first joined the Army, I overspent. I was just living on my own. I had put myself through my last year of college working and stuff, but that was easy. My parents were still kind of helping me out. When I was living on my own, I didn't know how to balance budgets or money or any of that crap, and I overspent because I wasn't paying attention. Man, I had to call my brother and be like, dude, I have to pay my rent, and I need like $600, please. That was a hard phone call to make. Now, it wasn't hard because I have a brother who loves me and who wouldn't even think twice, but the humility it took for me to even admit that I screwed up. If anybody's been there, guess how many times I effed up my budget after that? 0. Because I didn't ever want to have to go through that again. And unfortunately, sometimes I can't get this across to people, especially like when I'm training people in the gym. I can't get across to them that, you have to want it bad enough to embrace the hurt, to embrace the haters, to embrace the cynics, to embrace the fact that this video that you just spent 5 hours making only got 4 views.